for Alvin, Simon, and Theodore!
Alvin, Simon, and Theodore. These are the names synonymous with the virtual cartoon band Alvin and the Chipmunks, with their legacy being extended all throughout pop culture, whether it be through their Saturday morning cartoon, their live-action CGI movies, or their affiliations with Christmas. There's a high chance that a majority of people watching this video know about these rambunctious rodents and their songs. But, believe it or not, these creatures have been around for a very long time, ever since the late 50s, which is way longer than characters like Garfield, Scooby-Doo, and even The Simpsons. And with them existing for quite a while, you know there's going to be a lot of interesting things to talk about. From their humble beginnings in the 50s, to their Saturday morning cartoon in the 80s that launched them into pop culture, to present day, this is the complete history of Alvin and the Chipmunks. Future creator of Alvin and the Chipmunks, Ross Bagdasarian Sr., was born on January 27, 1919 in Fresno, California. He is the youngest son of Dick and Virginia Bagdasarian. His father spent most of his time as a grape farmer, while his mother was the primary one that raised him, alongside his two older brothers. Throughout his childhood, he was often very close with his first cousin, William Saranin, and would often spend a lot of time together, a relationship that would later grow in the future. In 1937, he graduated from Fresno High School and then would later go on to pursue an acting career with his first cousin in New York City. However, this didn't last very long, as when World War II broke out, Bagdasarian Sr. enlisted for 4 years as a control tower operator and rose to the ranks in the United States Air Force. After the war ended, Bagdasarian Sr., along with his newly wedded wife, Armin Kulajin, went back to Fresno, California, and tried to become grape farmers themselves, following in Bagdasarian's father's shoes. However, it didn't go well. After this unsuccessful attempt, they both headed off to Los Angeles, California, so that Ross Bagdasarian Sr. can start up his career as a songwriter. And that is where we begin our next chapter. His first song he wrote was with his cousin William Saranin, that being the song Come On In My House. The inspiration for that song came from a drive the two took through New Mexico in the summer of 1939, with the melody and lyrics being inspired by Armenian folk music as well as tradition. When the song debuted in 1951, with the song being sung by Rosemary Clooney, it became an instant hit and rose to number 4 of the Billboard year-end Top 30 Singles charts of that year. This would also be the only year that both Bagdasarian and his cousin wrote a song together, with Bagdasarian eventually going off to have his own solo career. In 1954, he wrote the song Hey Brother, Pour the Wine for singer Dean Martin, which wasn't as successful as Come On In My House, but still a modest success. In 1955, he signed with the then newly established company Liberty Records, and his first song for the company was the song The Trouble with Harry, which was inspired by an Alfred Hitchcock movie of the same name. In 1956, he wrote an instrumental called Armin's Theme, named after his wife, and executives at Liberty Records suggested that he should adopt a pseudonym as they found his name too difficult to pronounce. So when he debuted his new instrumental record in December of that year, it would be the first of many records to come where he was credited, and from then on adopted his new stage name, Dave Seville. In 1958, Bagdasarian Sr. would rise to fame with his little novelty song called Witch Doctor, and in that song would feature some very familiar voices.
And then the witch doctor, he told me what to do. He said that
How Bagdasarian was able to create these high-pitched voices was that he experimented with the speed of a tape recorder that he bought using family savings, and was able to get a high-pitched squeaky voice by just pitching the speed of that tape recorder by a few semitones. When the song debuted in April of 1958, it was a huge success, and rose to #1 on the Billboard #1 singles charts of that year, and since then has sold over 1 million copies. Following the success of Witch Doctor, he decided to give the Chipmunks a front row seat on his next album, that being the Chipmunks song, aka Christmas Don't Be Late, where he officially created the 3 chipmunks that we all know and love, called Alvin, Simon, and Theodore. The names of these cute little rambunctious chipmunks were all named after studio executives at Liberty Records, with the executives being Simon Warnock, Theodore Keep, and Alvin Bennett. The song also won 3 Grammy Awards at the first ever Grammy Awards ceremony, 1 for Best Album for Children, 1 for Best Comedy Performance, and 1 for Best Non-Classical Engineered Song. It even got nominated for Record of the Year, but sadly lost to... I'm not even gonna bother pronouncing that. In December 1958, the Chipmunks made their very first live appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show, originally portrayed as puppets, singing their classic Christmas song.
Christmas, Christmas time is near. Time for toys and time for cheer. We've been good, but we can't last. Merry Christmas.
In the early 60s, the Chipmunks were at the height of their popularity. They released several other songs after Christmas Don't Be Late, and were featured in several animated commercials, including one famous one where they sung a song for Jell-O. So, to capitalize on the Chipmunks' popularity, Bagdasarian Sr. was asked by CBS to create an animated series featuring the Chipmunks. The end result? The Alvin Show. For the show, the Chipmunks themselves would get brand new redesigns, with them sporting their now iconic colors, Simon in blue, Theodore in green, and Alvin in red with a giant A on the front of his shirt and a baseball cap. However, their original heights were a lot different, with Alvin being the littlest one and Theodore being the middle one, which honestly makes sense in the grand scheme of things since Alvin usually, in every episode, would act up and cause havoc in order to fulfill his own personal desires and ego. Each episode in the show would be broken up into 2 segments, with one half of the episode being dedicated to Alvin and the Chipmunks, and the other half being dedicated to a short-lived character that Bagdasarian Sr. created specifically for the show called Clyde Crushup. Each episode would feature 2 songs, with one of the songs being for the Alvin and the Chipmunks segment, and the other one being for the Clyde Crushup segment. The Alvin Show lasted for just 1 season on CBS with a total of 26 episodes, all lasting from October 4th, 1961 until September 12th, 1962. After the Alvin Show ended, the Chipmunks continued their music career by releasing a few new albums, such as The Chipmunks Go to the Movies in 1969, and would make live appearances here and there. And that's where we begin our next chapter, where I unfortunately have to bring up some very sad news. On January 16, 1972, Ross Bagdasarian Sr. died of a heart attack at the age of 52, just 11 days shy before his 53rd birthday. After his funeral, he was then cremated and his ashes now reside at the Chapel of the Pines Cemetery in Los Angeles. With Bagdasarian Sr. now gone, ownership of the Chipmunks later went to Bagdasarian Sr.'s son, Ross Bagdasarian Jr., and later to his soon-to-be wife, Janice Carmen. Bagdasarian Jr., who worked with his dad on the Alvin Show, always worshipped him, seeing him as his idol, and with him now gone, he felt the strong need to continue his legacy and the work of the Chipmunks, which would come, but not at the moment, because aside from a best-of compilation album in 1975, the Chipmunks have been mostly out of the public view for over half a decade. Until December of 1981. On December 14, 1981, a 24-minute Christmas special featuring the Chipmunks aired on NBC, called A Chipmunk Christmas. In A Chipmunk Christmas, a little boy named Tommy Waterford is lying in bed ill, as the doctor who checks up on him tells his mom that his chances of recovering before Christmas are slim to none. Meanwhile, the Chipmunks are out and about Christmas shopping while their caretaker and record producer Dave Seville is having the Chipmunks in the recording studio singing their signature song, Christmas Don't Be Late, after they're done Christmas shopping. During the Chipmunks' Christmas shopping, Alvin shows his golden echo harmonica, his big brother, another golden echo harmonica laying on a cushion. However, during his little moment, Angela, Tommy's older sister, really wants to get a golden harmonica for Tommy while she and their mother are at the mall, but sadly, their mother said no, as they're not able to afford it, much to the dismay of Angela, as she believes that if they were to get Tommy that golden harmonica, he would feel all better. As Alvin hears this conversation and moved to tears by it, he decides to go out of his way to Tommy's bed to give him his golden echo harmonica to make him feel better. Back at the house, while the Chipmunks are decorating their Christmas tree, Simon and Theodore congratulate Alvin on his selflessness for giving away his own harmonica to Tommy. However, Alvin doesn't want to tell Dave that he gave away his own harmonica to someone else for fear of hurting his feelings. So Alvin plans to save his money to buy a new harmonica after Christmas. However, when Dave gets a phone call from Carnegie Hall saying that they want Alvin to play his harmonica for their little stage show, the Chipmunks gather up all the neighborhood dogs to set up a little photo opportunity where kids could take their picture with Santa, with Alvin as Saint Nick himself, just to make more money faster. However, it didn't go to plan, and Dave forces the Chipmunks back into the house. With Simon and Theodore unable to tell the truth, Dave mistakenly assumes their actions are due to greed, and the Chipmunks are sent straight up to their rooms. On Christmas Eve, Simon and Theodore sacrifice their own allowance to give to Alvin, so that he can buy a brand new harmonica, as well as wishing him luck. Luckily, Dave gets a phone call from Tommy's mother, who tells Dave about the selfless act that Alvin did for her son. At the music store, Alvin is depressed as he still does not have enough money to buy a brand new golden harmonica. But then, a mysterious woman gives Alvin the golden harmonica that she bought with her own money, only asking that he play a song for her in return, to which Alvin agrees. But then, as Alvin finishes his song, the mysterious woman suddenly disappeared, as Dave, Simon, and Theodore arrive, with Dave apologizing to Alvin for mistaking his actions for greed, as Dave also tells Alvin about the great news that Tommy has fully recovered from his illness, and joins the Chipmunks on stage at Carnegie Hall. At the end of the special, we see Santa returning to the North Pole, being greeted by his wife, Mrs. Claus, who is revealed to be the same person who gave Alvin that harmonica. With the special marking the Chipmunks' grand return to television, you know that they're about to get some brand new redesigns. And, well, here they are. So basically they keep the same proportion and shape as the original 60s version of the Chipmunks. However, Theodore and Alvin's designs are slightly tweaked, with both of them having freckles, Alvin's baseball cap having more lines, their skin tone being a bit brighter, plus the top of Simon's glasses have this weird line on it. I don't know why. But the most drastic change has to do with Dave Seville, with him instead of looking like a Hanna-Barbera character in the Alvin Show, instead he looks more like an actual human being, with a slightly darker skin tone, a more humanish shape, and slightly messy hair. The Chipmunks, as well as Dave Seville, would also get brand new voice actors, with Ross Bagdasarian Sr.'s son, Ross Bagdasarian Jr., taking over the role of Alvin, Simon, and Dave, while his wife, Janice Carmen, would take over the role of Theodore. The special would also contain some well-known voice actors, such as June Foray, best known for doing the voices of Rocky from Rocky and Bullwinkle, Granny from the Looney Tunes, and Cindy Lou Who from How the Grinch Stole Christmas as Mrs. Waterford and Mrs. Claus, Frank Welker, best known as the voice of Fred and Scooby-Doo from Scooby-Doo, as well as Baby Kermit and Baby Beaker from the Muppet Babies, as the doctor who checks up on Tommy and Santa Claus, and R.J. Williams, best known for doing the voice of Calvin in the final season of Disney Channel's The Gummy Bears as Tommy Waterford himself. The special also contains a brief cameo from Clyde Crashup in Alvin's dream sequence. A Chipmunk Christmas was met with generally positive reviews, with many critics praising its nostalgic appeal, heartwarming story, and music elements, with the main criticism being its simplistic plot. So yeah, A Chipmunk Christmas was a pretty darn good special, but the Chipmunks' journey on television is only just beginning. In the early 1980s, Saturday morning cartoons were all the rage, with shows such as G.I. Joe and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles instantly becoming fan favorites. And you know the Chipmunks would follow suit. So in 1983, the Chipmunks would get their very own Saturday morning cartoon series, which would air on September 17th of that year on NBC, which would be known as Alvin and the Chipmunks. Many of the episodes in the series would basically follow some sort of problem that the Chipmunks themselves would have to solve, with a little help from Dave of course, overall teaching them some sort of life lesson, as this followed under the Children's Television Act, where many kids shows, including Saturday morning cartoons, had to be educational in order to combat other children's shows that just wanted to sell you toys, which is why many Saturday morning cartoons featured a PSA at the end. The one unique thing about the series is that it would feature some brand new characters that would later go on to have hits of their own and become fan favorites amongst the Chipmunks community, and those little creatures would be known as the Chipettes, starring Brittany, Jeanette, and Eleanor. The origin of the Chipettes can be traced all the way back in 1982, in the Alvin and the Chipmunks album, The Chipmunks Go to Hollywood, where in one of the songs, where Alvin sings a rendition of the popular Grease song, You're the One That I Want, there's another character who sings a duet with him named Charlene the Chipette, who would be a precursor for Brittany. Each member of the Chipettes, as well as the Chipmunks, would have their own relationship, with Alvin having a relationship with Brittany, Simon having a relationship with Jeanette, and Theodore having a relationship with Eleanor. There would even be a Valentine's Day special called the Chipmunk Valentine, where Alvin is too scared to ask Brittany out to a Valentine's Day dance because he's afraid of getting rejected again. So Simon makes a tape recording for Alvin to listen to at night to make him more confident, which accidentally makes him become a Zorro-esque character called Captain Chipmunk, and hijinks ensues. So yeah, the Alvin and the Chipmunks Saturday morning cartoon was pretty good, but the fun doesn't stop there. In 1987, the Chipmunks got their very first chance on the big screen with their very first feature-length film, The Chipmunk Adventure. In this movie, Dave is going away for a business trip, and the Chipmunks are left home alone with their neighbor, Miss Miller. Meanwhile, the Chipmunks and Chipettes are playing an arcade game called Around the World in 30 Days, and after the game is over, Alvin and Brittany bicker over who won. Out of nowhere, two evildoers manipulate both the Chipmunks and Chipettes into competing in a race around the world, with the grand prize being $10,000, and the two immediately set off on hot air balloons while traveling around the world, singing new songs along with old ones, and escaping danger around every turn. The film was directed by Janice Carmen, with her husband, Ross Bagdasarian Jr., serving as the film's producer, with the both of them being writers, and the film's music score was composed by Randy Edelman, best known for being the composer for Dragonheart. When the film debuted on May 22, 1987, it was a decent success at the box office, with the film's critical reception, on the other hand, being rather mixed, with many critics praising the film's animation and soundtrack, while criticizing the film's plot as well as the Chipmunks' annoying voices. However, over the years, the film has gathered somewhat of a cult following, and is now often considered the best Alvin and the Chipmunks movie ever made. But on the other hand, the movie has also garnered some controversy over its racial stereotyping of native tribes. But that did little to stop its popularity, and the Chipmunk Adventure is still considered to this day as the best Alvin and the Chipmunks movie of all time, thanks to its colorful cast of characters, beautiful animation, fun adventure story, and wonderful catchy songs. In 2007, the first of many live-action CGI Alvin and the Chipmunks movies opened to the public. The story of this movie's journey to the big screen is actually kind of interesting. It all started when Ross Bagdasarian Jr. claimed that he always dreamed of making a live-action adaptation of the Chipmunks since 1997, and during June of that same year, he assigned Robert Zemeckis, best known as the director of several Hollywood hits, like Romancing the Stone, Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Forrest Gump, to be the film's director, with the legendary filmmaker and Zemeckis' mentor, Steven Spielberg, serving as the film's producer. However, the project was put on hold after he and his father's estate filed a lawsuit against Universal Studios, whom back then owned the licensing rights to Alvin and the Chipmunks, for breach of contract, and wanted $105 million in damages. But in 2002, Universal and Bagdasarian later settled out of court, with Universal agreeing to give the rights of the Chipmunks back to him. 2 years later, in September 2004, 20th Century Fox and Bagdasarian Productions announced their collaboration of a live-action adaptation of Alvin and the Chipmunks, with John Vitti, who previously was a writer on The Simpsons, was announced as the film's head writer, and Tim Hill, a former writer on SpongeBob SquarePants, was announced as the film's director, with both Ross Bagdasarian Jr. and Janice Carmen serving as producers. Next step in line for the movie would be casting, with many actors considered for the part of Dave Seville, with those actors being Chevy Chase, Tim Allen, John Travolta, and Bill Murray. However, most were either not interested or couldn't be reached. But in March 2007, Jason Lee, best known for doing the voice of Syndrome from The Incredibles, would be casted as Dave Seville. And the film's antagonist made specifically for this film would be played by David Cross, who would later go on to do the voice of Crane in the Kung Fu Panda franchise. But originally, comedian Patton Oswalt was originally considered for the part, however, he was not interested. When it came to the Chipmunks, it would be the first time that each chipmunk would have its own separate voice actor, with Alvin being voiced by Justin Long, Simon being voiced by Matthew Gray Gubler, and Theodore being voiced by Jesse McCartney. However, both Bagdasarian Jr. and Janice Carmen would retain the singing voices for the Chipmunks. Once the cast was finalized, the film officially began principal photography on March 28, 2007. The film was primarily shot in several places throughout Los Angeles, and the CGI work done for the Chipmunks would be done by the same visual effects company that did the Academy Award-nominated visual effects for Babe. Once the film was officially finished, it was released to the public on December 14, 2007, where the reception was mostly negative, with many critics criticizing the film's story, Jason Lee's horrible performance, and the overusage of a lot of cliches. However, David Cross's performance as the film's antagonist, Ian Hawke, did garner a lot of praise. But when it came to its box office performance, the film was a massive hit, grossing over $360 million against a $60 million budget. And when it was released on DVD in 2008, it became the third best-selling DVD in the United States. And due to the film's success at the box office, 3 sequels were later released from 2009 to 2015, such as The Squeakquel, Chipwrecked, and The Road Chip. Despite all of these movies being panned by critics, they were all massive hits at the box office, with all of these movies grossing on average over $340 million. So yeah, the Chipmunks' journey on the big screen was a roller coaster ride, with ups, but mostly downs to say the least. But just like with Jim Henson and the Muppets, the Chipmunks would officially return to the field that they knew best, television, in 2015. In 2015, the Chipmunks would have one more go on television with a brand new animated series that aired exclusively on Nickelodeon called Alvin and the Chipmunks. Created by Janice Carmen, this is the first time that we ever see the Chipmunks fully computer generated instead of hand-drawn like you see with some of their older projects. The premise of many of these episodes is basically a lot like some of their older projects, where the Chipmunks would get into shenanigans and hijinks ensues, with the show lasting from 2015 to 2023, spanning 5 seasons with a total of 130 episodes. The Chipmunks would also get brand new redesigns, and, in my opinion, these look pretty awful. It's basically like halfway between the late 1980s redesign of the Chipmunks and the live-action CGI Alvin and the Chipmunks, and it just does not work and comes across as extremely uncanny. Same thing applies to the Chipettes, although they do fare a little bit better. Plus, the theme song would be slightly tweaked, with the song itself being a lot shorter as opposed to the original Saturday morning cartoon, probably being cut in half. And with that, well, this just about does it for the history of Alvin and the Chipmunks, but there is one more thing I'd like to dive into before I go. So for this last segment, I'm gonna just be rambling about different kinds of Alvin and the Chipmunk merchandise, like with shirts, plushies, and other kinds of merchandise that they have produced over the years. So, let's get into it, shall we? So first, we have some Alvin and the Chipmunks plushies made way back when in the 1980s, when the Alvin and the Chipmunks Saturday morning cartoon was all the rage, and, well, these definitely show their age because these do not look like the Chipmunks at all. All of them just look like Winnie the Pooh. They're just fat and chubby. I mean, with Theodore it makes sense, but not with Alvin and Simon. Simon's glasses is wonky. Alvin has one singular buck tooth and a nose that looks like a small chocolate chip. I mean, look at them. They're not cool, they're not cute, they're not even hot. Next up is this Alvin and the Chipmunks video game released for PS2, Nintendo DS, and the Wii. And basically what this game is just a glorified rhythm game, something like Guitar Hero or Rock Band. The only difference is that there's absolutely no peripherals, which goes against everything about Guitar Hero and Rock Band, is that those games are made with peripherals. The peripherals make Rock Band and Guitar Hero those games, which just baffles me beyond comprehension because there's no reason for this game to ever exist. It just doesn't. It's bland. It just exists. It's there, collecting dust. Next up are these Alvin and the Chipmunks and Chipettes figurines made back during the Alvin and the Chipmunk show back in 2015. And I gotta say, they don't look that bad, even though Theodore looks like he has one big eye and one small eye. Simon's nose looks like it's a pimple. Brittany and Eleanor look like they want to touch me in my wrong place. Jeanette looking like she's looking towards the left. And Alvin looking like he is concerned about what he did. Yeah, don't buy these. They're bad. Next up are these Alvin and the Chipmunk statues that were made for movie theaters to promote the films, and technically I know these don't technically count as merchandise, but come on, when am I ever gonna get to talk about these lovely specimens? We got Alvin with his sideways hat, Simon looking like a pose, and Theodore with his Bugs Bunny teeth. Yeah, they look really awesome. I love them. They're nice. Again, technically not animation, but come on, when am I ever gonna get to talk about this? And I've also neglected to mention this. Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue, released back in 1990 as a sort of anti-drug and alcohol PSA, featuring several animated cartoon characters like Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, the Muppet Babies, the Smurfs, Ghostbusters, Elf, Garfield, and of course, Alvin and the Chipmunks. And this is also the movie where Simon said his infamous line, that being marijuana. And, well, what else is there for me to say other than, well, it's a very preachy cartoon. Yeah. Next up are these Alvin and the Chipmunks mascot costumes made to promote the plethora of live-action CGI Alvin and the Chipmunks movies. And honestly, they look pretty darn good. I mean, they're very screen accurate. The only criticisms I have is that Theodore looks like he's looking for a straw to suck on, Alvin looks like he has an allergic reaction, and Simon just looks dead inside. But other than that, they look pretty darn good. A+. And finally are these Alvin and Brittany mascot costumes made for the 2015 CGI Alvin and the Chipmunks animated series, and oh my god, these look freaking hideous. I mean, Brittany looks like Renee Zellweger fish, and Alvin looks like Will Smith fish. Just seriously, why do they look like they're from Shark Tale or the freaking Cocomelon Baby? They look disgusting. I don't ever want to touch these things with a 30-foot long pole, ever. Don't go anywhere near them. They're disgusting, they're creepy, they're bad. They're absolutely awful. Don't go near them, ever. Please. And there you have it, the complete history of Alvin and the Chipmunks. It was definitely a lot of fun getting to make this video, as well as exploring the history of one of my childhood favorite things that has molded me into the person I am today. And after this video, I now have a much deeper appreciation for Alvin and the Chipmunks as a whole, as well as everything about them. So what do you think? Did I miss anything? Was there anything you wanted me to go into more detail about? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my future videos. And that's all I have to say. Peace to the world and peace out. Bye-bye.